The village of Mrachnoyar stood at the edge of a huge forest, which the locals called the Forest of the Dead. No one went there, not even during the day. The forest was shrouded in ominous legends. It was said that the souls of the dead dwelt there, and those who dared to enter never returned. A young girl named Kira came to Mrachnoyar from the city to visit her aunt, who lived all alone after her husband's death. Kira had always loved nature and thought that village fears were just superstitions. Aunt Lydia, why does this forest scare everyone so much? She asked at dinner. Her aunt turned pale, her hands trembling. Kira, don't you dare even think about going there, she said sternly. The forest takes souls. There is no life there, only death. Kira grinned. They're just fairy tales to scare the children. But Aunt Lydia looked at her with a seriousness that sent chills down her spine. I've seen people go out there, and no one ever came back. The next day, Kira heard the village discussing the disappearance of a young boy named Arseny. He had gone into the forest to get firewood, but he had never returned home. The villagers gathered to search for him, but no one dared to go into the thicket. Kira, full of curiosity, decided to find out what was so special about this forest. She grabbed a flashlight and her phone and headed to the edge of the village where the Forest of the Dead began. When she reached the edge of the forest, a strange silence surrounded her. The birds that usually sang in the trees had fallen silent. The air was cold despite the summer day. Well, let's see what's so scary, she muttered as she took the first step. The deeper she went, the stronger the feeling that someone was watching her. The forest was thick, and the trees seemed too tall and dead. Their branches looked like bony hands. Suddenly, Kira heard a rustling sound. She stopped, listening. The sound came from behind the trees, as if someone was moving slowly. Arseny, she called out, but there was no answer. The rustling was getting closer. Kira turned on her flashlight and pointed it in the direction of the sound. In the light of the beam, she saw a figure. It was a man, but his movements were strange, jerky, as if he had no control over his body. Hey, is everything okay? Kira shouted, but the figure didn't answer. It began to move closer, and Kira noticed that the man's face was dead pale and his eyes were empty, without irises. This isn't funny, she shouted, stepping back. The figure stopped suddenly, and then raised a hand, pointing somewhere deep into the forest. Go away, while you can, he whispered in a hoarse voice that sounded more like a squawk. Kira, gripped by panic, turned around and ran back. She heard footsteps behind her, but didn't dare turn around. As she ran out of the forest, her legs were shaking and her breathing was hitching. But when she looked back, she saw that there was no one at the edge of the forest, only the shadows of the trees, which seemed ominous to her. Back home, Kira told her aunt what she had seen